Welcome to Life's
Term.
with your host Justin.
And it's Chelsey.
We are going to do the kickoff for this month's new topic. Talking about moms. We're going to get into things like single parent moms, what it used to be like, what it's like now. We're also going to get into how to prepare your child for the future job market.
Yes.
And we're also going to talk about codependent moms, those helicopter fucking moms. And maybe we'll talk about disseminating addictive behavior to our children.
Mm-hmm.
And what or how far we go about that. So, second episode this week, Friday.
Yes.
What do you, it's pre-recorded, so what's going on this week that you're anticipating? Hey, I got one for you next week. You're probably going to go floating.
What?
Yeah, modern gravity.
I've wanted to float for so long. You know what? I could really use a float.
I bet you could.
I could really use a float.
So
I'll just say that.
Those wonderful, wonderful people, Matt's coming in sometime. He's the co-owner of Modern Gravity. And, yeah, we're going to set you up with a float. Kenny and I have gone. It's your turn to go.
Yeah.
It'll be a good time for you.
Yeah, you guys were talking about, I believe it's Kenny's girlfriend who just couldn't do it. She didn't like it. The anxiety factor of it.
Yeah, it was very unfortunate.
Yeah. I've wondered if I would have the same outcome.
You meditate, though.
I do, yeah.
Can you stop the medicine wheel when you meditate?
For the most part, yeah.
I said medicine wheel, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I didn't mean that. I meant, can you stop your hamster wheel?
The hamster wheel. Well, I knew what you meant. I was picturing a hamster wheel, so don't worry, we're on the same page. The listeners might not be, but
yeah, if you can stop the hamster wheel, floating is fine for you. Yeah.
I guess we'll find out.
So let's outline what we're doing. What is it and how are you going to prepare your child's future for the upcoming job market? We have recently talked about automation and AI, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on gaining that research? What are going to be your tools?
Well, I definitely need to look into what kind of jobs are almost like it's inevitable they are going to be out, non-existent by the time she is ready to start a career, right? Because I know that I have been told from people who are nurses or who work in hospital settings that even when it comes to checking yourself in to the hospital, like those kind of positions, unit clerks and whatnot may or may not be replaced by all automated systems soon or in the near future.
Now, one of the things that I would preface is the union is pretty strong.
Okay.
So the union is not likely to lose people because if they lose members due to unemployment, there's less union dues being paid.
Right.
So
but are there going to be any of those new jobs for newcomers, right?
Yeah, think about the post office.
Yeah.
There's less mail carriers today than ever before.
Yeah.
There's more super boxes out there than anything.
Yeah.
Right? Here in Canada anyways.
Yeah.
Right? No, I agree. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I would suspect that you're going to use Google.
Yeah.
Right?
Of course.
Just to throw it in there, go talk to guidance counselors at colleges right now.
That's a really good idea. I can write that down.
And universities and all that stuff. Well, they don't have guidance counselors. They have career development, whatever the fuck they're called. Mm-hmm. But
like to have an idea what kind of careers are going to be in high demand or what is predicted to be in high demand, because really look how quickly everything changes. My daughter's one.
Yeah.
So,
and it'd be really cool to have one of them come in. Mm-hmm. That would be kind of neat if that happens.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. But yeah, I think that might be the way to look at it. I would say engineering is going to be the next big wave. Yeah. Everything is going to be engineers, and our engineers are going to become mechanics. Mm. So, like, engineers who are making $100,000 a year are going to be making like $40,000 a year. So if that's the case, what happens with money? Everything becomes, we were just talking yesterday's episode about Bob Lazard. He said it would change the technology that he was witness to would change economics at its fundamental core.
Yeah.
That's what technology is doing right now. Right now, that's happening.
Exactly.
So, obviously the concern is, there's no more truckers even.
Yeah.
Right? And you and I talked about the fundamental development of children and what culture might be the best culture to help those developmental stages for your child.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think the big thing that we kind of came out to was the push of education, because I think where you and I come from, if I could say this so boldly, is, education was stupid.
Mm-hmm. I totally feel that way.
Just go get a fucking trade, right? Or go get. But you and I come from white trash. If somebody's going to be, we come from honky world. You know what I mean? Like to a degree, that's where we come from. We come from the backwoods people where it's like, well, I'm not paying a fucking plumber. I'll put the toilet in myself. Yeah. Fucking guy went to school. I don't trust him.
Right.
Yeah, but guess what? They're doing well in life. Mm-hmm. Right? School's good. Education is even better.
Yeah.
Endorse that shit, because all we've done, the places that we come from to a degree, our culture, is a culture that disseminates, you don't have to go to school and bullshit. And what did that get us? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? We're scratching at, definitely the economy's changing into a degree where we don't have to go to school. I'm very lucky that with the schooling that I got, I didn't pay for it.
Okay.
But I look at anybody coming out of university right now with $80,000, $40,000 worth of debt.
Yeah, crazy debt.
That's a lot of debt. And you and I kind of talked about that in the last episode too, about Google saying, well, you don't have to go to college anymore. We'll just get you a $40,000 job a year. Put this chip in your head for $100K that you can pay you off in 10 years. It's the same fucking thing. There's no difference. A kid in school using Google to research a paper next to, some kid at the mechanic shop Googling how to take out a transmission.
Yeah.
It's the same fucking thing.
It's fairly easy to look things up. This is a kind of a comparison. My furnace broke like a week ago, and I looked up on Google how to fix it, and I tried absolutely everything I could going down that list until the final one was to call a plumber or someone who does heating and furnaces. Yeah. So I you can look up anything. I used to want to take a course for sign language. I've been learning it on YouTube. I know sign. Yeah. You can look it up on YouTube, on Google, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I almost had a job as an interpreter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I have what's called an ASL 5. Mm-hmm. So I can sign. Cool. I can sign fluently. Yeah.
Oh, I definitely can't. I can do baby sign though.
even I'm back to learning Italian again.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I could speak it fairly well. I can speak French still. That's not a problem for me. I can speak English fluently. But yeah, it's pretty easy to learn anything nowadays than it was before. It was such a disadvantage. I think so let me ask you this. Could we even add this in of how do you perceive information is going to change your child's future?
What do you mean?
So the context of school. Mm-hmm. She really going to have to go to a classroom? You and we come to this podcast and we're face to face for what, 2 hours a week? Yeah. Maybe 4 hours a week. Yeah. When you go home, your office is in your laptop. You write your blog from your house or your cafe or whatever.
Exactly.
If you want to learn about podcasting, right, for the next episode, what are you going to do? You're going to listen to Joe Rogan, or you're going to listen to somebody, and then you're going to listen to somebody who's going to break down how they did what they did. Yeah. Did you have to come here and take a seminar, or
no?
Did we have to have a meeting, or no? So what is the future of her education going to look like? And is the Constitution or the institution, of a university even going to be prevalent in like 18 years from now or 17 years from now?
I don't know. See, that's so hard. Even I think that a lot of what I learned in school, well, 90% of it I feel like I haven't really used. And now with how much technology is changing and like, is the curriculum of school ever going to change? Do we just keep sending our children to school because that's just what we do? You know what I mean?
Well, and so let's look at this. Do you know why we have free education?
No.
So free education comes from the Catholic Church. That's where it comes from.
Even for public schools?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The whole idea of it, the idea of an educational institution comes from the Catholic faith and Spain. And the reason why they gave you free education is because it's an indoctrination. Hitler said it best. Give me the education and I'll show you the future. What do you think he meant by that? Give me the kids and I'll educate them and I'll show you what's coming.
Yeah.
So if you own the education,
you can make them how you want them to be.
That's right.
Yeah.
How moldable is a 6-year-old mind?
Pretty moldable.
And how old do we send kids into school?
4 or 5.
See, the problem is I wouldn't say problem, but I think the interjection that we have to have and be honest with ourselves is how much power are we giving teachers? We look at them like, they're basically a babysitter for, from like 8:30 till 3:30. Mm-hmm. No. That teacher is shaping the mind of your child, and they actually have more time. I was going to say, I don't look at
teachers that way.
Well, no, but
but people tend to, right? Yeah,
people can, right? Mm-hmm. And I think, it's crazy, and then we give the government that authority.
Yeah.
Now, when they change curriculum, did you have a say in it?
No.
How much say would you want to have in it?
I feel like I would probably want a lot.
Yeah, of course you would, right? Of course you would.
Yeah.
So why is it that...
If I could, I would make my daughter's school lesson plans to a degree.
Well, you could. You do have the opportunity here in Canada to do distance learning.
Even from like kindergarten on?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Jehovah's Witnesses do that right now.
Oh,
so
I
do
didn't know
Mormons.
that.
Yeah. You do have the ability to do it. Of course.
But then there's juggling that and adulting.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the other piece to this, right?
Yeah.
So like, now we could also venture down the road of like how much the government sways you with economy in order to produce a financially livable life for your child. I mean, it's them who basically dictate to you that you have to earn or accrue X amount of dollars in order to have some sort of financial stability in order to raise your child.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right? So now you have to earn money. Mm-hmm. So now it's a balance between earning money and being involved in your child's life.
Yeah.
So is this...
How do you find that balance? What is the balance? Everybody has a different opinion.
And how much of a wedge are you willing to incur in order to create the money?
Yeah. It's so hard.
Or to earn that financial balance, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's scary. I mean, and I don't think... I guess the government understands how much they influence your day-to-day life, right? But at the same time, there's a great disregard for how important that may be to an individual's life compared to how much taxes you have to pay. Mm-hmm. Right? That's. I mean, last I counted, us Canadians, you and I owe $5 million a piece in taxes in order to have your child not have debt.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's what you're worth. That's what the Canadian government, that's what our beautiful Justin Trudeau put upon you by creating this deficit that he's created in Canada.
That's just crazy.
So now, I mean, before you had a child, did you even think in terms like that?
No, not at all.
No. Now, you're like, oh my God, right? It's a whole new world, brand new world, right? Brave new world. It's pretty crazy to realize the responsibility and the trickle down, right? So talking to a guidance counselor, what if they say they don't know? Then
it wouldn't surprise me.
Then what's the recourse?
I don't know.
Because we're in this place now where it's a huge unknown.
Yeah.
I mean, Elon Musk is saying within the next little while, gasoline vehicles, there's going to be like the horse and carriage.
Yeah.
And fully automated vehicles are around the corner within years. So there goes the insurance industry for vehicles.
Yeah.
Why do you need insurance if you're not in charge of it?
No kidding. No more driver's training.
There's no need. There's no need. Like how that is so that is so economically mind-blowing. Like it would change a lot. No more taxi drivers, no more truck drivers.
Yeah.
No more delivery drivers.
Yeah, no deliveries, nothing, no Uber.
Yeah, none of that. It would all just be the guy who owns the most.
What about
even
people who deliver packages
gone
to your door?
Jeff Bezos is already working on a drone that will hold a 50-pound package that flies in the air and tracks you by your phone.
And drops it off directly to you.
And it does a facial scan.
Oh my God.
So that it knows that you are you. And then it'll hand you the package. Wherever you could be sitting in traffic, driving your dinosaur fucking car.
Yeah, because it runs with gasoline.
Yeah. And you have this drone basically tapping on your fucking window.
Oh my.
Like what the fuck?
Can you imagine?
Right? The problem that they're having is the drone needs to be 50 times faster than a human. So that they can't a human just can't reach out and snatch it.
Oh yeah.
For the wrong person. That's the biggest problem that they have right now. And trying to predict the environment. Like it has to be able to do it under very adverse conditions.
Well, and wouldn't that be a lot of drones ripping around in the sky?
Yeah,
doing
but when
deliveries?
they're that high in the sky, you wouldn't even know.
I'm just picturing them all trying to deliver packages in your neighborhood, though. All of a sudden, there's a bunch.
Or what if they're kind of like a plane, like a plane that could carry 200 pounds, 300 pounds? That's what a car basically. What they're basically figuring out how much a car delivers, and that's how they'll work it.
Okay.
So there'll be like big drop-off points, goes on a conveyor belt, and then the local drone picks it up and then drives it to you. But
I'm laughing because it sounds so crazy, but it's really not.
There was a bigger drone that dropped it off, like a plane.
Yeah.
Like a FedEx plane. And
then the little mini drones can take over.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the new chain of command.
Wow.
It's fucked. So how do you train your kid?
Yeah. Do you... should I even worry about teaching her how to drive a car when she's she won't even need a learner's license?
Do you teach her how to code at the age of 6? I mean, for my partner has nieces in elementary school right now. The 9-year-old already knows how to code.
Yeah.
What the fuck? I know how to code, but I'm like a dinosaur coding. You know what I mean? Like I'm an old coder, and I learned how to code on a calculator. An old fucking HP GS 1135 is what it was called. And I coded an inversing program. Like, what the fuck? like a trig program on my calculator. That's what I coded. But how to code on a computer? I mean, I probably figure it out. But fucking kids are learning that stuff in like elementary school.
It's just crazy.
So does curriculum change? Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. And like I said, were you a part of that? Not even, man. They didn't give two shits about you. They're trying to gear what economy is coming next for the taxpayer. How do we keep this tax-paying income coming? It's fucked up. I get it though. I mean, they look at it all like cattle.
I feel like I need to have a refresher of what kids are learning in elementary now to even be able to prepare and help my daughter with homework in the future.
You ever notice that when we brought homework home to our parents, they didn't know what the fuck we were talking about?
No, I used to get so frustrated when...
And you're like, help me.
Yeah.
And they're like...
They would guess and I'd be like, no, I know you're doing it wrong.
Yeah. And that creates such a fucking huge... And this is also coming from the person that's like, fuck school. Mm-hmm. Right?
I know.
Like they're like, fuck school. Well, I shouldn't say that. My mom has an education. So she went to school for business and she just whatever. So like she wasn't really like, fuck school. But my culture around me was like that outside of my mom. And so I never trusted my mom. That
because
she
was
knew
the only
what the
one?
fuck. Well, she knew what the fuck she was talking about. Like trig? She didn't know what the fucking. Come on, integers?
Yeah.
She didn't fucking have a clue. She didn't have a clue. And then reading, I'm like, yeah, right. You know how to fucking read. Like that was my thinking in my head. Because like there's this attitude when I was a kid, like like you fucking know, right? Always suspicious. Yeah, fucking right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's why Justin had dyslexia. Because there was no way they could have been right. Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's a great line to go down. So I'm going to tackle single parent moms being raised by one and you evidently being one currently. We're going to dare to compare from the height of the 80s when single parent moms were like the first generation really. In a mass, like if you look at it statistically, that's when the mass of women were single parent moms.
Okay.
Like that's when it was really happening. So like guys were just leaving. We'll compare to that raising to now.
Okay.
And how that looks. If you're okay with it.
Yeah, sure.
Let's do it. We're going to go into like dating, what that looks like with having like a young one. Right? What that looks like for your future, right? Your balance.
Yeah.
What the decisions are coming up, like the balance between work, family. What does family look like? Are you planning on getting married and making some sort of a family of the nuclear sense to a degree? Or are you just saying, fuck it, I'm doing it this way, or I'm going with the flow, or whatever it is, right?
So where do you want to start?
Well, and I think seeing the way how my mom did it and the way how the social milieu was back then about being a single parent mom is for sure different then to now. You know, so I'm actually going to do statistical research on that and try to validate trends. I'm not armed with that information today.
Yeah.
So, and definitely look at that. And then I'm also going to tackle codependent moms and helicopter moms and how that might be associated with addiction.
Yep.
And how that might be a reinforcement with addiction. What was the last one? I can't remember the fourth one.
I think we were going to talk about...
I have...
I know I was curious about addiction, avoiding your child becoming an addict.
Oh, you and I talking about our addiction for younger ones.
Yeah.
We can go on that right now.
Sure.
How do you feel about that? How much will you disclose? I mean, obviously they can listen to the show.
Yeah.
When they're older.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I am going to be 100% honest, like for sure, about my addiction.
How honest?
Okay. Like I'll spare them some details, but they will.
Like I was having group sex with a bunch of fucking bikers, and like how honest are you?
That has never happened. No. That's why I said I will spare some details, but I will be honest about to the degree that I almost died. I could have been dead easily. That I was destroying my life. That I have zero control over alcohol and drugs. And if they're in my life, then look out, pretty much. Because they're going to want to know why some other parents drink and why I don't. And then there's going to come the time when they want to go to high school parties, or I'm not that cool mom that's buying alcohol. Like, it's all going to come out at some point. So there's not only how much am I going to disclose, but coming back to the helicopter mom, and like, I don't plan on being that parent that's like, you're never allowed to drink because I almost destroyed my life doing it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
What are you thinking?
So my mom told me my entire life that my dad was an alcoholic.
Okay.
And that didn't stop me.
Yeah.
What I can tell you is when I was a child, I definitely suffered from low self-esteem.
Yes. Yeah, I did too.
And whenever sports was too difficult, Justin just quit.
Yeah, I'm going to offer a ton of encouragement because, you know what, when I look back, when I was really into sports and focused on my being an honor student, as much as I say fuck school, is when I stopped those activities that I noticed a big shift in my whole world, my whole personality. And when I same thing as like being shitty at a sport or having the mean girl who's better at the sport get in the way, like my low self-esteem, I feel like I didn't have anybody supporting me or encouraging me or addressing my low self-esteem.
Mm-hmm. And was this because so I know from my mom was depressed. Mm-hmm. And she had low self-esteem.
Yeah.
So how was I supposed to lean on her when those were the things that she was exhibiting?
Yeah, yeah.
So is this an inside-out job where what you have will be given with intuition? Or is this a thing of actively encouraging? Because this is what I've learned, is if I'm actively doing something, it's because I'm learning it. I don't actually have it. Mm-hmm. When we talk about sobriety, I'm not I'm not sharing ideas. I'm telling what the fact is for me.
Yeah. Just like lead by example.
There's a huge difference. Mm-hmm. Right? So I can tell you that when my mom told me about my dad being an alcoholic and she was like, you might be one, I was like, I'll fucking prove you wrong. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
That was dumb.
Yeah.
Because I proved to her time and time again that I'm a fucking drunk and I will black out.
Yeah.
Right? So is there a right way or a wrong way? I don't know. I mean, I know that I don't ever want to see, I would never want to see the youth go down the road of addiction. Is it going to happen? Probably. Mm-hmm. Right? What I do know that's a game changer is self-esteem, regardless if...
Big time.
Now, the other thing, though, that we need to recognize is poverty self-esteem. I think in your first block, you talked about what impoverished looked like. You never wanted to be called the welfare kid, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So how much does that play? See, that needs to be taken into effect too for somebody's self-esteem, because like for instance, when I was a kid, my biggest thing was I didn't want to play with any friends' toys in case I broke them, and my mom couldn't afford to replace it.
Yeah,
like that's a fucked up sense of being, So
my thing was I hated wearing hand-me-downs, but like my whole wardrobe is hand-me-downs. And if one of my friends figured it out that it wasn't bought from a store for me, I was just like humiliated. And it's funny because now I look at it, is it really that big of a deal? But when you're a kid, it is.
Sure it is.
Yeah.
Because that's a part of your self-esteem.
Yeah.
Right? So now how do we, either abolish that idea, or by insinuating that they already have that self-esteem, or reinforcing that kind of self-esteem for them not to give a fuck? Mm-hmm. Or do we provide that for them?
What do you mean provide?
Like provide them with the financial stability in order to be able to afford to buy everything brand new from a store. Like, I can also share that. Like, I remember my mom buying my jogging pants from Byway. How fucking Byway doesn't even exist here.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Byway is like cheaper than Walmart by lots.
Okay.
It's like...
Is it like a Value Village or Goodwill type thing?
But it's not a secondhand.
Oh, it's not secondhand. It's just very
new.
Cheap from the get-go.
Like crazy cheap.
Okay.
Like $3 for a pair of jogging pants. Mm-hmm. You know?
Like a thrift store. Except I guess those again are
But
used.
it's brand new. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I can definitely empathize with that feeling, being found out like, oh, I'm broke and poor, right?
Yeah.
Like that sucks. So again, I mean, you don't know what kind of money you're going to make. You hope for the best. You work hard. You do what you're going to do, and your value is your value, and hopefully you earn above that. Mm-hmm. You know. But how do you do? How now do you protect your child? Do you protect your child in a way of affording that to them, or do you give them the ability, or teach them the ability to have self-esteem regardless?
No, you teach them the ability to have self-esteem regardless, because you have. I don't think that is a fair way to prepare your child by just handing them everything financially, because what happens if they can't do that for themselves when they get their first job?
Now watch this. So there was a book I read a little while ago called, I can't remember what it's called, but it was something about economics and family. And basically they had said that that the offspring won't make any more than their parents. So like if your parents made $40,000 a year, they can only afford you the education that will make maybe $45,000 a year. They can't even like co-sign your loan to get into university.
Right.
Because they don't have the capital to incur the costs that are outside of the student loan for university.
Yeah.
So basically you're already selected to be in a social milieu. We were talking about the caste. Like caste society?
Yeah.
That's the economic way of making a caste society.
Okay.
When we think of like the one-off people who are like nobodies and became doctors and lawyers and like got a scholarship all the way through.
Yeah.
That's like fucking below 1%. You realize that in our society?
I didn't know it was that low.
Below 1%.
I knew it was probably rare, but
yeah. So like getting the ability to do that, not unless like for instance with the Alberta Land Surveyors Association here in Alberta, they had very low amounts of Alberta land surveyors being turned out from university, and they needed more, so they just paid for the education. Like the association did, the ethics committee did, because they needed more, and they did what they had to do in order to make it happen. So like, yeah, you're already put into a place of that economic value. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm saying, to teach your kid, or teach your child, however, to deal with whatever through self-esteem may be the ticket.
Yeah.
But it also may be, so there's kind of this really cool, so I was at that Tibetan bazaar a little while ago, and they were talking about some fundamental thing with a kid. I kind of wish I did it with mine, was teaching your kid to throw all the bad things that happened that day into an empty jar, so that they can see that it didn't mean anything.
Oh, that's really cool.
Right at the end of the day, every day it's the jar.
Yeah.
Take all that stuff and just put it here, and then you show them detachment from it.
Yeah.
Now imagine if you could show them detachment in the moment, and you could also teach them meditation right away.
Yes. Yes.
Pretty wild, right? Yeah. That's a whole different ideology. It's very hippy dippy and all that bullshit.
But I love it.
But it's like that might actually solve some sort of problem.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
But then again, your kid might still be an outcast because or an outlier of their own microcosm of a society, because they're not in that.
Yeah.
So now you go back to it's almost like a chicken before the egg scenario where you're like, well, maybe I'll just fucking homeschool then. Fuck it. Right. And then disclosing information about addiction. I would not disclose anything to my kid about fucking the criminal behavior I was involved in, because it glorifies it to a degree.
Well, I think I should probably backtrack and just say that I would at least make them aware of the fact that I have an addiction, and maybe leave it at that.
So are you
because you think they would never ask you why you don't drink?
Nope.
You don't think they would ask you?
No, I don't think so. My grandmother doesn't drink. I don't know why she doesn't drink. She just doesn't drink. She's crazy as fucking sin. Believe me. Crazy. Borderline. She's fucking like she is the epitome of fucking like melodramatic. Like I remember one time when my mom caught me smoking. My mom's wow, let's not go there. Like my mom, I was like, she caught me smoking. And so then my grandmother found out. My grandmother was like, oh my God, you're going to die. I wasn't like, it's bad for you. No, I'm just going to die.
Yeah.
Like it's always over dramatic. And I'm pretty sure my grandmother was a sociopath.
Oh.
So apparently you can't be a borderline. So she was always melodramatic, but there was no feeling behind it. So she would say shit like, oh my God, you're going to die. And then look at you with dead fish eyes to your fucking face. You're like, oh my God, you're fucking crazy. like, do you know how fucking crazy you are? You were
just
fucking
zero feeling or expression.
Nothing. Yeah. Beating you with no emotions.
Oh no.
Just like cold handing you and fucking bending you over her knee and fucking beating you with those wood. Fuck, she clipped me in the face with one of those wood shoes. You know?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. I hit the ground so fucking hard.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Oh yeah. That was like, she had no feeling. And
just
my mom.
Poker face all the time.
And my mom. Yeah. No, she would bite your fucking hand off. Like you didn't do that. No. And my mom would have blackouts with her anger.
Oh.
So she had a thyroid condition. She really didn't know. She didn't know how bad her temper could get. And it was like, and my mom was young when she had me. Like, so she was 18 when she gave birth. And, like, I grew up with my mom. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like me and my mom are probably more of a friendly relationship than we really are mother and son.
Yeah.
And, that's kind of strange. Like I'll have people listening to me and my mom talk, and I'll be cursing and swearing, and they're like, "Who the fuck you talking to?" And I'm like, "It's my mom." Like
that's like my mom and I.
Was she young when she had you?
No.
Huh.
But we have that sort of relationship.
Why do you think? Why is it like that? Like I know from my mom and me, it's the age. Like there's like 18 years gap. But what is it between you and your mom? Like, why do you think it's friendly like that? Because
she was absent while I was growing up, like emotionally absent.
Okay.
And physically, like she did leave at one point and came back, and then left again and came back. And that
must have been difficult to deal with, eh?
It was, especially having a little sister 5 years younger than me. I kind of had to take over that motherly role for a short period of time.
I have a fucking book for you to read. It's going to blow your mind away. It's called The Roles We Play in the Family. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would like to read it.
Yeah, that might fucking lead to why you had some addiction issues.
Probably, yeah.
Sure. Like,
clarify a few things.
Yeah. I'm like 14, all grown up now. Yeah. Shit.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
I'm out the fucking door. Yeah.
And now my mom and I, we are more like friends now, but we also butt heads badly. More so my fault, I would say. I can admit that. I think it's like unresolved resentment, possibly. You know, her and I kind of briefly talked about this not too long ago, and I flat out told her that I don't think, Casey asked me, hi, Mom, because I know you're going to listen to this. She had asked me if she was a shitty mom. She flat out asked me. And I was like...
Loaded question.
Very loaded. So I said, why are you asking me this question? And she said, well, was I? I said, well, why are you asking me? And we went back and forth like that. And I was like, I just want to know where this question is coming from because it came out of the blue.
Yeah.
And then, anyways, I just simply said, I do not think you were a shitty mom. I think you were an absent mom. And I have come to realize now that there's probably reasonings for that. Mm-hmm. And I just need to accept that. It's just, she wasn't open about her feelings then. And I'm just going to have to accept the fact that there's probably a reason why she was the way she was that I'm unaware of, right?
You know what I'm starting to realize is the enclaves of relationships that we have with our moms. Mm-hmm. My mom's question to me was, actually, I remember saying this to my mom in jail. I woke up, and this is kind of fucked up too. So my mom was never charged for any of the long distance calls from Alberta Corrections to her house every Sunday that I called.
Oh.
Yeah, strange, right?
It is.
And my mom would accept all the collect calls or whatever. And then my mom had basically a heart attack the second time I was in jail.
Oh, no.
And that's a big reason why my brother hates me.
Okay.
Because, like, how can you forgive him? Blah, blah, blah. You need to hold this vendetta for life. Because that's kind of the way how our family is. But my mom didn't really ask me. It just came out. And I said to my mom, I said, you know, you're not responsible for what I became. Mm-hmm. It didn't matter what you were going to do. I was going to become this. Mm-hmm. You know, you were the mom that you were. And you did the best that you could. And it wasn't that your best wasn't good enough. I was just going to be where I am at right now.
Yeah.
This was going to happen. And she just broke out crying. And like, that's the hardest thing for a guy to hear is your mom crying on the fucking phone while you're in jail.
I can only imagine. Yeah.
Right? So like, as the tears are falling, you know, and then, so I saw my mom. She
probably needed to hear that.
She still has a hard time accepting that she has no responsibility in my addiction.
Yeah.
And I think that's the codependency.
Yeah.
Right? Because we did lean on each other emotionally. And I think me and my mom were sick with each other in a depressive mode when I was young. So like I talked about going to a boarding school when I was really young, right? The school was more afraid that my mom was not going to be able to emotionally cope than me.
Oh, okay.
Like that's pretty, I mean, that says a lot.
Yeah.
That she'll have the issues that she would have. Right? Because there was probably some depression issues that were going on. I had already been talking to a counselor about the sexual molestation that I went through as a child. And I think my mom felt really guilty about that. Yeah. And then, of course, the absence of a man. Mm-hmm. You know, I think she felt guilty about that as well. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of guilt. And this cultivated into her need to have responsibility over the shitty choices I made as an adult. Mm-hmm. And for a long time in my addiction, I would manipulate that in order to get my way in active addiction. Yeah. Now, the problem with it was I realized in jail on that Sunday I called her was I was responsible for everything. And my mom wasn't responsible for any of it. I was taking it as my responsibility. And I had a lot of resentment against my mom too. Mm-hmm. I mean, I said this on the show, and this is the most, I don't have many regrets in my life, but this I do regret is my mom told me that she could have given me up for adoption to a doctor in Vancouver. Yeah. And I said, why didn't you? Oh. Ooh. And I was like 7. Ouch. You know, and a lot of that, if I go back to it, was the lack of self-confidence through the economical depravity that we lived in. Mm-hmm. That's why, you know, I didn't want to feel that poor. Right. And that was poor. I mean, we were fucking poor, you know, and I didn't want to be there. I didn't want that. And I would think of my future as, well, what the fuck am I going to have? I want to go to school. Well, I'm not getting there. Mm-hmm. How am I getting to school? You know, there's no money for me to go. What the fuck? What are you going to do? What are you going to give me? $100? Your fucking welfare check? What are you going to give me? Right? That was my thinking. And I had resentment against my mom about that. Like, how dare you give birth to me with like not even preparing yourself? Mm-hmm. Like, I was so upset, you know? And, yeah, it was very, very difficult to to overcome until finally that Sunday when I realized, there's nothing she could have did. She did the best that she could do. And, I'm probably all the better for it now.
Yeah.
But, that was very, very difficult to handle. And then my mom crying in jail and all that fucking bullshit. Like it was a lot of things in one. And then I remember, so my mom saw me a couple of years ago. She flew here to Edmonton from out east. Mm-hmm. And we hadn't seen each other. So what were 2019? So she flew out in 2016. And prior to that, I hadn't seen her since 2007.
Oh, wow. That's a long time.
Physically, yeah. And, so she lands and she comes walking down the escalator, ready to cry. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? like just stone cold. We're not doing this. Why the fuck are you doing this? And she's like, okay, I'll stop. It's fucking rights you're going to stop. Like, what the fuck are you doing? And I'm just looking at her like an alien. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you don't have to do that. And so, yeah. So, I mean.
Would. I'm just picturing it. I can just see it too. Like, don't.
Yeah, what the fuck are you doing?
It's not necessary.
And so she's supposed to come out for Mother's Day this year, but it's been rain checked. She's going to be out here in the fall, and I anticipate the same thing. Like it'll just be.
Why is she not allowed to cry?
Well, she is. Just like.
Does it make you emotional?
No, I think. So like my partner right now thinks I'm a psychopath because she's like, why don't you cry? I'm like, why would I cry? Like, what is there to cry about? Why would I cry? And she's like, but I'm like, I cried enough in treatment. Like I've cried, I cried before court, right? But like, why cry? Why cry now? Life is pretty fucking good. So like I might leak, but it's because I yawned or something. Like I'm not like there's why cry?
See, I thought there was something wrong with me because the only thing that makes me cry is like happy tears about my daughter.
That's great.
That's just cheesiness. But then I sometimes like seriously like I don't cry when I feel like I should be crying about stuff. Like other people would be crying in certain situations and I'm just like meh. Like I just have a poker face all the time, like a straight face, and it's like maybe I.
Well, it's a personification, right?
Yeah.
So like
I've wondered if I just have this permanent wall built around me.
Well, you and we were talking before the show about a big book study.
Yeah.
That might be necessary for you. Because that'll change a lot. Like I remember when I did my set of steps or
I'll just be crying every day.
No. Well, I'll put it to you this way. So this did happen to me. I remember in early recovery, you remember the fucking Charmin bear? I've said this before on the show, but I'll say it again. Remember the Charmin bear?
No.
Remember the Charmin bear commercial where the little fucking bear wipes his ass and he chafes
it?
Yeah,
Charmin.
So, and he's so, whatever. So I see this thing, I start fucking crying. And I'm bawling my big fucking ugly cry, right? And I call my sponsor, who's like a tough guy. I'm talking like a big fucking whop. He's just a big tough guy.
Yeah.
And I call him, he's like, what the fuck what are you crying for? I'm like, the fucking Charmin bear wiped its ass and it fucking chafed. And he's like, control yourself, man. It's like, what you got between your fucking legs there? I said, he goes, you got a little balls and a little dick? No, you're a fucking man. Grow the fuck up. It was a commercial. It's not fucking real.
That's so funny.
I was like, yeah, put things in perspective.
Yeah.
Real fast.
Oh my God.
Because it was true. I mean, yeah, like that's why, why cry? Fuck, why cry? And it's not a persona anymore. I mean, it's just like I couldn't cry over an addict dying anymore. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. I mean, it sucks. I'm not saying like it doesn't suck. It sucks, but fuck,
it's just
it happens, man.
Happens,
it happens. And so yeah, like back to disseminating the information about my addiction to my child? I mean, I might be like, I don't know. I mean, if they were to say, like, where do you go every Tuesday night? I feel like I go to a meeting.
Yeah.
If they would say, why don't you drink? I'm allergic. That's all I got to say. Like, why don't you do drugs? Well, do your other friends fucking do drugs? Like, maybe you shouldn't hang around with those fucking idiots. Like, I think I fucked up here.
Yeah,
Like, can I meet your friend's parents again?
Yeah. Wait.
Like,
where does little Jimmy live?
like I don't really think that that's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, I wouldn't be like, you're gonna, because I think when my mom told, and that was the old school thought that there's like a gene of alcoholism or a gene of addiction.
Yeah.
It's DNA genetically passed on. No, man,
I completely thought that was true.
They don't know that. I mean, it might be, but they don't know. I mean, how could you ethically test a kid? So take a 9-year-old child and get them loaded and see what happens. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's the only way to know.
Genetically, how do you get to that place? You can't. I've never been able to find something like that. What they do know is that people like you and I who are inherent towards depression and self-esteem issues are more likely to have addiction issues.
Yeah.
But I mean, how many people came from your neighborhood that aren't addicts?
All of them except me.
There you go. So are you 1 in a million?
I'm just trying to think. I don't really... Nobody that I grew up with had addiction problems. I think the only people that have addiction problems were the people I met after high school.
There you go. Mm-hmm. And then, and so was that your choice or was that your social milieu?
Social milieu.
I would say it was your choice to be a part of that social milieu. Like
Yeah,
exactly. It wasn't your growing up social milieu.
No.
It was
my new. So it was a whole brand new group.
Yeah. And I think that's in context. You made that decision.
Yeah. No, you know what? That's true because for the longest time, I shouldn't say for the longest time. Let me rephrase that. For the first couple of years that I hung out with people, the first time I was even around drugs, like I was probably the only one in that room or at that house party multiple times who had never touched drugs and never planned on touching drugs, and I was fine with it until one day I just said yes. Mm-hmm. And then...
That was fun, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because once that ended up happening, you got to get rid of all of your other issues.
Yeah. I enjoyed it far too much. Yeah,
I lived in the same place, man. I was never going to touch cocaine. Mm-hmm. I was never going to touch heroin again. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thought I could maintain on booze and weed. I cannot maintain on booze and weed.
No.
It's just it's not who I am. And then am I going to take that away from my kid and make them aware that you might become an alcoholic because no, man.
Yeah. No, see, I would never say that.
I mean, because it's like this. I couldn't justify that you're an alcoholic. You have to make that determination. Mm-hmm. That's not up to me. That's up to you. Right? That's so personal.
Yeah.
And for me to already give you a disposition that you have an issue to it, what kind of fucking parent am I to do that? Mm-hmm. Right? That's like saying, I don't know, you might get a mark on your face because I have one.
Yeah, it's true. Well, a lot of people do that, though. They do say, oh, so-and-so's grandfather was a drunk and their dad was a drunk, so they're going to be a drunk. A lot of people do just pass that label down through families. Not saying I would ever do that.
And now looking at it in this perspective, because you were saying that you would be honest. Mm-hmm. Well, again,
now that we've talked about it, now I'm trying to think, I guess.
Like how far is the line? Because you don't want to scare them. Like my perspective, like I said.
Well, scaring them wouldn't do anything anyways.
I'm allergic to it.
Yeah.
Well, is the allergy hereditary? That might be.
Yeah.
And I would leave it at that. If they ask more, well, like what happens? I just am intolerant to it. Mm-hmm. That's all that means. For everybody, it's a little bit different.
Okay, so what if in that situation, say that's all that is disclosed about your addiction, and then like say in my shoes, then all of a sudden my child is showing all sorts of signs that they are going down a very similar path or that they do have a drug or an alcohol problem, then would you be willing to sit them down and be like, hey, listen?
So I work with a lot with families in addiction.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell moms this right now. This is why I'm going down the line of codependent moms, helicopter moms.
Yeah.
My best advice, and I'll get information to back this up, you need to let the fuck go. You need to let go. As much as you think you're going to save your kid, as much as you think your personal information might stop them from hitting the wall, you're wrong. They're already going to hit it.
I believe it.
The thing that you got to do is you got to save yourself for when they're ready for help. And if you continuously try to go down the road of endorsing and helping and being hoodwigged and becoming a part of their chaos and getting addicted to their chaos, when they're finally fucking ready for help, you don't have any more energy.
No, that you're going to be exhausted.
You're done.
Yeah.
You are done. You have enabled them all the way down the road, and parents will enable their children to death. I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've seen it. So where does and I know with my mom, all that guilt is what led to the codependency.
Yeah.
You know, all of that, all of those issues led to that. And my mom's a tough woman. Like, kid you not, like she's tough, because it came finally down to a point where she just stopped. Like I said this in my bio before, there was a time, this was the worst of the worst, boy. I called her and left a message. Imagine, I called her, left a message on her phone saying, "This is the sound of me dying." Because I was dying on the fucking phone from alcohol poisoning.
Oh my.
I don't even remember that. That's my mom telling me. She's like, "Do you remember that?" It's like, I don't even remember that. So like, at that point, she just wasn't even answering. She was just hoping. She just knew that if she saw the area code of Alberta, he's probably alive, but wouldn't answer the phone.
Yeah.
It was just too much for her.
Yeah.
And even when I called her from jail, she made my little brother's dad pick up the phone and talk to me. Because she wouldn't talk
like
to me.
Kind of like pre-screen? Oh, she
wouldn't
talk to you?
She just wouldn't talk to me. She said, "I got too much shit going on, and I can't talk to you."
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was hard for me.
Yeah.
That was really hard, because I always had access to my mom. And at this one time, she made the decision, no more.
Yeah.
So, like, those are the things, like, when I think about amends, that's the shit that amends gave me. That's what sobriety gave me. As long as I maintain my sobriety, that's not going to happen again. Right? Like that, and that's fucked. Like it's just, yeah, it's not something I wouldn't want any of my, like, any young person to go through that, or a parent to have to experience that.
What, addiction?
Yeah, and having to like cut your kid off and like be this tough.
Well, just try to have to make those decisions.
Well, and I got into a real bad argument with somebody who's like, "You can't be tough. You got to let your kids in, blah, blah, blah." And this person's son died. This is a public figure here in Edmonton. I'm not going to say. And they said all this stuff. And I realized that when they said all this stuff, I was like, well, they're dead. You know, so I'll tell you what I haven't seen not work is that tough line, and people dying from the tough line. Yeah. Like when parents know that their kid's in addiction and they make that ultimate line saying, "You can't come back here basically until you're healthy, or call me from treatment, or call me when you're ready to go to treatment, or detox, or whatever."
Any one of those, yeah.
Then that typically kind of happens, and that helps. Parents don't want to know what their kids are going. My mom doesn't want to know what I went through in active addiction.
No.
She doesn't, like, your mom doesn't want to know.
No.
So let me ask you this now. In the future, do you think you'll let your daughter listen to this show?
That's a tough one.
That is, right?
That's really tough. No. Well, she'd figure it out anyways. She'd figure out how to.
Sure. But even the people in your life right now, we had this discussion before.
Yeah.
Right? And then you don't have to say the guy's name, but what ended up happening? I mean, you guys split in your relationship.
Yeah. Very, very shortly after.
After the show.
Yeah.
So now looking at it, do you want people close to you listening to the show?
I don't mind, but I have my mom listens to it. And I have flat out said that listen at your own risk, because I'm not really going to edit what I say.
Yeah.
I don't go out of my way. Like, I haven't been like, hey, Dad, listen to this episode. He knows what I'm doing, but I think my dad's the last person I would want to listen to this show.
For sure.
Because then I probably would edit what I say, depending what the topic is.
Well, and that's the hardest thing.
Yeah.
Is when you're trying to be when you're trying to be an extrovert as opposed to an introvert.
Yeah.
And be completely honest about yourself. And yeah, I mean, that's the integrity that we have for the listeners, right? I mean, I think that's the big deal.
Well, yeah.
And one of the things that you and I talked about off record is here in Canada, we have this thing called Family Child Protective Services, or CFS, Child Family Services. And the issue is you got to be on guard about what you say, because while you look at Ontario, let's say your child is no longer, they don't want to be a little girl anymore, they want to be a little boy. And you say that you're not going to pay for hormone therapy. Your child's like 6, 7 years old, and you're not going to do hormone therapy and whatever. You want to bring them to a psychiatrist or a counselor to like help them figure out what the hell's going on.
Right.
We're going to get in a lot of trouble for me saying this. I know this right now. So you say this stuff, and you're not going down what's supposedly the social norm of like giving them hormone therapy. In Ontario, they'll take your kid away.
Because you chose
not to give them hormone therapy.
You chose a different form of therapy.
That's right.
Than what
the government deemed correct.
Correct, yeah. Okay.
So that's, again, when you were talking about teachers and stuff, how deep do we let our government into bylaw or giving us the rules of rearing? How deep do we let them go? I mean, now they're saying that children at 7 years old, like, would you give your child the ability at 7 years old to like choose that and know that when you're giving them hormonal therapy, you fundamentally changed their body for the rest of their life? That's irrevocable.
Yeah, that's
and when you were 7,
there's so many sides to that.
Yeah, but when you were 7, what kind of fucking choices did you make? Should you have been making life choices at 7?
No.
That's a fucking life choice.
Yeah.
How crazy is that? The fucking brain isn't even developed. They now know until you're 30.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, I thought for women it was in your 20s, early 20s, mid 20s. But either way, not until you're well out of school. Well, up into high school, I guess.
So how the hell are we allowing kids to make these major decisions for their fundamental, like for their development? And
I'm going to assume people will say something because of their psychological development behind it.
Okay, so now let me ask you this: were you an attention-seeking child?
No. No.
So out of your friends that were attention-seeking children,
yeah,
how many of them would say outrageous things in order to claim the eyes of the room?
A few would say the most outrageous things. Yeah.
So what if this is the outrageous thing that's coming up now?
It's a possibility.
Sure it is. I mean, I remember when masturbation was one of the craziest words to say publicly. So first thing I did was I walked up to my cousin's boyfriend. I was like, do you masturbate? Not even knowing what the fucking word meant. And everybody in the room was like, oh. I got in so much trouble for that.
That's so funny. That reminds me of a time I was, my parents were watching a movie and I went into the living room and there was some bad evil character. And I was like, I was really young. And I was like, oh, that guy's a bastard. And I had no idea that I was swearing, and I got in trouble for it too.
Yeah.
I heard that word somewhere being said all the time, and I thought I would say it too.
I think I heard that from like, I don't know, one of my cohorts, my young cohorts, word masturbate.
Yeah, so you had to use it too.
Yeah. And I figured I would like, because I always had a higher vernacular as a child. I was raised with adults. My mom, like, you know, and so I would work out words through talking with people.
Yeah, okay,
like
makes sense.
That's how I would do that. And because I couldn't really find people my age, like
to try these words out on.
Yeah, so I would be like, "Do you masturbate?" to my cousin's boyfriend, who's now her husband.
Yeah,
right, And I just remember how fucking red his face went.
I bet.
And then like that wasn't enough. So then I was like, have you sodomized my cousin?
Oh,
not
my
knowing what sodomy meant. I just knew that somebody gets sodomized because it's used in the context of sodomized.
Yeah.
Right? So it was like, well, that has to happen to somebody.
Let's find out who.
so I was like... And mostly to see if I was using it correctly, right? And then I got in so much trouble for that. And then and then so these are all like on Sunday dinners.
Of course.
Right, at my aunt's house, right? And then the next one was when you sleep with my cousin, is that bestiality?
Oh my God.
Oh, I got in a lot of trouble for that too.
Oh my God.
So this is like weekend after weekend over 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And it seemed like every time I went to my aunt's house, I just wasn't getting out of the house for another week.
Yeah.
Right? I was like locked down for another week. So yeah, that was kind of shitty. That was a really shitty time in life. So using those, well, just like as a kid trying to suck those eyeballs in, I think is a real thing. Mm-hmm. And now, I mean, where did I get all this stuff? Like these words and stuff. Where did my like friends get them all? It was like The Simpsons and Beavis and Butthead and like all that shit, right? Yeah. So where are kids getting PC culture? And the shocking of like, no, I'm a little boy now.
Well, they can only use YouTube by the time they're 4, 3.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
And then how much is given to them? Like how much do you know? How much did your parents know of what you were watching on TV?
Not very much.
How much do you think people know of their? Let me ask you this. I think we should have talked about this, but let me ask you this: how likely are you to allow your daughter on YouTube, social media? What's the age for you? And when are you going to let them use technology? Or have you already even? Are they already touching the tablet?
No, she's not.
Oh, you're pretty adamant about
yeah.
Nope.
No. I don't even like if I'm on my phone to do my posts, for example. I don't even like that because she's constantly trying to grab my phone, and she has already figured out that when you move your fingers around on the screen, it moves things on the screen, and she's obsessed with trying to grab my phone. So even if I do anything work related, I try to make sure it's on my laptop, and I only use my laptop in one area of the house. And I want to badly say, no, I'm not just going to say it. I just don't want technology to be for anything other than work or school related for the most part. Like I don't even let her really watch cartoons.
My brother is graduating high school in a couple weeks. Mm-hmm. He cannot cursively write. He has no idea how to cursively write.
I believe that.
He's
I probably don't even remember how.
He signed his name for his bank account by fucking printing. By printing. He cannot write his name. None of his friends know how to write his name.
That's really strange.
So you know he's actually proposed? That they use his thumbprint as the motherfucking ID for his signature.
Huh.
Nope, never happening in my world. You're not getting my fucking fingerprint. Are you crazy? Are you crazy?
Imagine what could be done with that fingerprint.
No kidding. No kidding.
Like in
I mean, you
ways.
already have a social insurance number that tracks you.
Yeah.
And I know I sound like a fucking nut.
No, not at all. When it comes to a fingerprint, no.
And he's like, nah, what do you got to hide? Everything. What the fuck do you have to hide? I mean, that's the point. And you're like, nothing big. Christ's sakes, man, listen to me. Fucking driving your bicycle drunk is a criminal offense. Mm-hmm. It's a criminal offense.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you talking about? What you don't even know what you're supposed to hide. That's how many laws are out there.
That's true. Yeah, I wouldn't know.
You don't even know what to hide. You don't know what not to say. You don't know what not to do. I mean, shit. The law is a repercussion after the fact.
Yeah.
It's not a deterrent until you already know.
Yeah.
You're only like I didn't think selling drugs was that big of a deal. Till now there's a 5-year fucking minimum mandatory on it.
Yeah.
It is a long time for a little bit of crack.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Like, it's crazy. It's fucking crazy. So yeah, and I guess kind of in this Mother's Day thing, like the development of what children are doing and what's happening with this Generation Z bullshit.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And what happens? Food for thought as you go away from this show. What happens if...
God, I got a lot to think about.
What if this career counselor says to you, well, the best thing you could do is let your kids start fucking with the tablet now.
I know, and that very could be the case. And another thing is, if I am that one parent out of her entire classroom that is like, no, you don't use a laptop or you're an iPad.
Social pressures, right?
Right? Then my kid's going to be bullied because they don't know how to use it, or they are the odd one out. Like, I don't know.
It's tough. It's tough to it's tough to navigate this shit, man.
Yeah.
And it feels like every little decision that you make, your kid's fucked.
Yeah, exactly, right?
You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
Totally. Yeah.
Like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah. And I guarantee you that there is a parent out there listening saying, oh yeah, you say that now that you're not going to let them use the tablet or the iPad. I said that too.
Well, and then what does it become? Do you shelter your kid and go live in the fucking wilderness and kill
I would.
moose?
I would.
But that's what I mean, right? Like, we have gone to such extremes in our society that the only opposite is an extreme. Mm-hmm. There's no deviation of a mediocre recourse. Mm-hmm. This is why Kenny and I said this. I said our society is a fucking addict.
Yeah,
it's a bunch of addicts, and this is what we have now. Is like a form of extremes all over the place.
Yeah,
and there's nothing like to have two people sit down at a table and talk to each other in a way where they can at least try to step into each other's shoes just doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. It's like two aliens. Like, you get a conservative and a liberal sitting in the same room, and they're so far from the fucking mark. And then most liberals, like I was a liberal for a long time, and apparently now I'm a fucking crazy conservative. And I'm like, I don't believe, like, I sure I have some sort of religion ideology, but I don't, and I believe in some form of nationalism, to be proud of where you're from and to fight for your soil, so to say. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I don't believe in Nazism.
Yeah,
like
right.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
I don't believe in socialism either. I think that shit's nuts too. You know, like I don't. So I mean, and these kids coming up, I think we're in for a hell of a fucking... I mean, I don't know. You and I had some probably pretty radical ideas when we were 19 and 20 years old. And like our parents' generation and Generation X were looking at us going, you kids are fucked.
Yeah.
And we're probably doing the same thing.
Yeah, probably.
But God, I hope they were wrong, just like we're gonna be wrong. Mm-hmm. Fuck, I hope we're wrong. Because if it becomes a socialistic, communistic fuck that, I'm moving in the bush. Fuck that, I'm done. Like, fuck everything. I'm just out. Fuck it. I'll go kill shit with bow and arrows and stuff and eat meat and whatever.
Yeah.
Go be a Ted Nugent. Anyways. Let's wrap this thing up. So if you want to listen to or read the After the Show blog, please check out www.lifeonlifestermspodcast, all one word.com. And you can, Chelsea's an amazing blogger, so you should really go check that out. Where can they find you on Instagram?
Chelsea_ Life on Life's Terms. And
then there's Life on Life's Terms podcast. There's also a Life on Life's Terms podcast Facebook page that you can check out. We're also over at minds.com. And because this is the kickoff of the month, seriously, go to any one of those forums and, give us your input, man. It would be really nice.
Yeah.
You could go right on Chelsea's thing and give her a blast of hell or call me a misogynist, whatever the fuck you want to do.
We'll survive.
That doesn't, I mean... Oh, I got thick skin. Try to make me cry.
Yeah.
Doubt it's going to happen, but you can try. Anyways, you guys have a beautiful Friday. We'll talk to you soon. Until next week.
See ya.